Okay, here's a compilation of a couple of clips talking to the service manager um, about the BMW and why it's probably not the right bike for many of us.
as you can imagine.
Well, it's a bad deal. Basically, if these bikes get ridden off road a lot, then the air filter has to be serviced more than every 6,000 miles. It's just how it is. The airbox design is not the same as it was on the 800, and it's not the same as it is like on the 1200s or 1250s. Those don't seem to have the same kind of issue that the 850s, the 750s, and the 700s do. All of those are a little different because of where the air intake is. But
So is your gut that this probably happened before the first 11,000 miles when it was chain slapping and all that was going on? Was this the same thing back then, 4,000 miles ago, before we did the valves?
Typically, if we're doing a service on something and we see dirt ingestion, we'll always make notations that there's dirt ingestion. And I didn't see anything on the previous repair order, so at that point in time, I'm going to say probably not. I can tell you now by looking. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I know you guys were saying like burnt clutch smell in the oil or something like that. I remember. I don't know if that would be related, but I remember your text saying that.
Really not.
But then you looked at the clutch and it was within spec and everything.
Yeah, what happens is when you get the dirt ingestion, it has a tendency to wear the cylinder and the rings. And once the cross hatches are gone from the cylinder, then we see these things start to consume oil and start using oil.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a bummer, and to me, I've spent a lot of time discussing this with BMW, and for me, I think it's more of a design flaw than anything. If they would have designed the airbox differently, we wouldn't have the same problem.
I mean, it's a big marketing, and yeah, it's certainly a design and marketing issue because this is my first real bike. I'm not a Dakar champion. I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary.
No. So the first customer I had, he bought a 850 GSA with the intentions of just riding BDRs. That's all he was going to do. He's primarily going to use this thing to go off-road. He had 3,600 miles on his bike, and the engine was ruined because of dirt ingestion. So he never even made it to his 6,000-mile service, and the motor was ruined. Basically, what it did is it burned so much oil, it ran itself out of oil and then seized up. So we took it all apart, got with BMW, showed them what's going on, and they said, well, it's not warranty because he didn't maintain his air filter, right? And then we pursue, hey, it doesn't require air filter maintenance, but every 6,000 miles. So then they pointed out in the manual where it says that you need to take care of it, service your air filter in extreme dusty conditions. And that's the way it went. And then I spent time with our rep and went round and round and round. And the guy had just bought the bike from us not that long ago. So I ended up paying for half of the repair just to get the guy taken care of. I think we collected like $2,000 from him, and we took care of the rest. It was a bad situation, and the bike is marketed to be this off-road adventure bike, but honestly, it does suffer from some flaws, and one of the flaws, it has a couple. One of them is the cam chain tensioners. Seems like those are problematic where we have to replace those. And then the other issue is dirt ingestion through the air filter. That's the worst of it. The cam chain tensioners, I've had probably more engines fail with cam chain tensioners than I have with dirt ingestion. Lance Johns had two engines in one 850, and then his other 850 got an engine, similar issues, cam chain tensioners.
Huh, I missed that one from him. Okay.
Yeah. So for me to help you the best, it starts with you, and it starts with you calling customer service BMW and voicing your concerns, and that gets the ball rolling. Once that starts, then they're going to get a hold of me, and then I can finish by giving them all of what's going on with the bike and why it's doing it. And I think we work the consumer side. Don't want to do the tech side because I've already done that a couple times, and they're just flat out no. And then once that happens, the consumer side can't override it. It's a done deal. You'll never get it covered.
So that's kind of what I'm getting there. And then here's another clip where I talked to him a couple weeks later.
Potentially, this has happened earlier. So I don't know if the engine's so far gone that you would.
The cam chain tensioner failure has been the number one failure of most of the motors I've replaced, because that allows the timing to jump, and then it bends the valves, because the valves it's an interference motor. So once the timing's off, then the valves hit the piston and it's all over with.
Right.
So a majority of all the motors that I replaced, it's been because of that or dirt ingestion. I've only a couple of the motors that did have the bent valves. I did see some of those having premature rocker arm and camshaft wear. I'm not saying that yours doesn't. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I didn't pull yours apart.
Yeah, I'm just curious if that's something that, once you get dirt ingestion, it's too far gone and you wouldn't be able to tell if the rocker arms were having problems.
You'll be able to tell. But I figured if BMW wanted me to tear the top end off, then I would inspect it then. But for right now, I was just trying to minimize the expenses that if you would have to incur if it's not going to be covered under warranty. You know what I mean? So
right.
I know that my rep and the consumer side is working on trying to get an engine for you. That's really what is going to be the best thing to do.
Uh-huh.
And hopefully the motor we get is good, because I've had motors that I've gotten from BMW that I put in and they sounded horrid, and I've had to send them back. So it's just, yeah.
I'll bet. I've shared my video on forums, and it seems like other people seem to think mine's extra tractor-like its whole life. So
between you and me, here's the true issue with that particular bike, is that bike and the engine is not manufactured by BMW, right?
Right.
That bike is not from Germany; it's from Malaysia. And BMW, some of the inside people that I talked to know there were some issues with quality control because Germany wasn't making sure that certain things were done certain ways. So
sure,
there is an issue on that point. But I'm just hoping that it goes good and they just decide to get you a motor and we can put a new motor in your bike, and that would resolve all the issues that you're having at this point, with even if it has premature rocker arm wear, it would fix the dirt ingestion problem because you're going to get a new motor.
So that's where I'm at. Today is the 42nd business day this year that BMW has had my bike for either shock failures or fork seal issues, which, well, that just happens. But mainly the cam chain tensioner and now the air box dirt intrusion issue, which is going to require a new engine. I've done all standard maintenance. In fact, they've been doing most of it recently because I have to go back for other issues. That's where I stand today, and maybe why you don't want to ride your 850 off-road.